My name is Carolyn DeBuse, and I am a Mickaboo volunteer from 2009. I have fostered, adopted, and I've actually set up a adoption fair at Davis, and I've done many other events. So today I'm going to bring you a little bit of knowledge I have on commercial bird food. Parrots in the wild have a very diverse diet in which they forage for vegetation like flowers and buds, also fruit, seeds, and they'll even eat insects. This would change with location and season. Each species has its own specific nutritional needs, and here are a few examples. First, the macaw diet requires actually a higher fat content, and so it might be healthier to add walnuts to a macaw's diet. Lories and lorikeets actually have specific tongues that are best to collect nectar, and so they are going to be eating fruits, vegetables, pollen, and nectar, and there is a commercial nectar available for them. Amazons and some of the cockatoos are known to get very fat, so for their diet it will help them to have a lower fat diet. And lastly, those little parakeets and cockatiels spend a lot of their days searching for and foraging for a seed, more of a seed-based diet. But they spend basically all their time doing it. So to help them, it might help by having smaller amounts given to them throughout the day so that they aren't gluttons at one point or another, and it'll keep them active. If you want to research your parrot's species' own needs, you can ask a veterinarian, or one of on the web, I found a really lovely encyclopedia brought to us by the World Parrot Trust, and that can be found at www.parrots.org. That's parrots with an S. And once you know the needs, you can focus on how to balance their diet best. So what makes a commercial pelletized diet different from an all-seed diet? One thing you can say is that you have a small pellet that is actually created by chopping all the good stuff up, then smashing them together and baking them so it's one pellet. The bird has to eat the whole pellet. It can't look in its bowl and choose the fatty or the unhealthy bits to only eat. So since we know that it's eating the whole pellet, we're ensured that it's getting its full diet. We recommend, there are many out there on the commercial brands of pelleted diet. I have Rowdy Bush and Harrison's today because that's my choice of good pelleted diet, and also my birds enjoy eating them. But we also have Hagen and Tops, standing for Total Organic Pellets. We have Lefebvre Nutra cakes, and also the Avi cakes, which are better for smaller birds. But they all include all the nutrients that a bird needs. So how do we choose between which ones they are, which pelletized diet we want? The first thing we want to do is read the label. You want to understand that the food you're choosing is the right age or right life stage of the bird. So we have baby foods and we have adult foods. This Harrison's states it right in the title. It says adult lifetime course. So course is the size, and then adult lifetime is the age of the bird that should be fed this food. Different life stages of birds is going to have different nutrient needs. So this is why we want to make sure that our bird is getting the right food at the right age. So the next thing you want to look at is you want to look at the regulation of Aafco, which is on all pet foods. Now this is this is 4 items. We have crude protein, which gives a minimum, 15% on this one, crude fat, 5%, Crude fiber, maximum 6%, and moisture at 10%. The moisture has to do with the quality of storing the food, and the protein and fat has to do with the quality of the food for the bird. This is a statement of what's in the food. It is not a statement such as on a human label where they state an daily allowance. This is what's actually in the food. But you can tell the difference between one food and another with ones that has higher protein or higher fat. It will be stated there. The next thing to do is read all the ingredients. The ingredients, you'll find out, are very similar things that we eat in our own table. So this one, you can see the ingredients is a very long list, and it starts with corn, barley, soybeans, peas, lentils, rice, alfalfa, calcium, sea kelp, and a whole list of vitamins. It should not be mystery to you that this sounds like really good food, and that's what your bird's getting. So the next thing you want to look at is size preference. So the large parrots eat with their hands, and they'll actually put a pellet in their little foot and nibble away. The small parrots will actually eat out of their dish. So it's important that the size is right for the parrot. What I have here is all three sizes. There's even a larger one, but this is the medium one for Rowdy Bush. And I feed that to my medium-sized parrots. And then I have a small size. And I have a very small, much smaller size, which is called mini. And this is good for parakeets and cockatiels and little green cheeks. So on the Harrisons, I have coarse, and I have a really little tiny one that they call their fine size. Why is this important? This is important so that the bird is eating the right size that's comfortable for them. But in a way, what I have found since I have all these sizes is that if I put them in the dish, the larger birds sometimes prefer eating the smaller size, and the smaller birds sometimes like to manhandle those big pellets and really feel confident chewing away at them. So to actually add variation to my diet, my bird's diet or eating, I actually vary the size. One thing that's important, the next thing that's important is color versus non-color. We actually recommend at Mickaboo that we don't give colored pellets. The color is actually something that they've added probably for us to make it feel like we're giving it more appetizing food to our birds. And also the smell is fruity. And this is also for humans, not for birds. Birds have very small sense of smell, or at least our parrots do. And so the smell of the food isn't what they're choosing it over. And often if you put those in both in the same dish, they will not prefer they do not show preference of the colored food before the other food. So the next things on my table, that's about the pellets, but I also want to cover treats. There is commercial treats. This is Power Treats from Harrison's, much higher in fat than the regular food. It's also higher in sugar as well. How do I use them is actually as a treats and training and rewards for good behavior. I have more common treats that you would see. We've got cashews and almonds. Both of these are raw, which means they have not been cooked with oil or salt or sugar. And the last one I have is millet for my little birds, but actually my big birds think this is a great treat too. Gives them lots of things to do. This comes in a very long string. This is how it's grown on the plant. But this is way too much to give one bird. A bird, if you put this in a cage, will spend the rest of the day eating every single seed, even if it's full or not. It's kind of basically like giving a 10-year-old kid a huge pizza and saying, go. We don't want to do that. So I actually break these apart and I create little tiny sections of the millet. And this ends up to be the size that I give as a treat. So on the seed thing, none of my birds have ever had a whole cashew or an almond. What I do for them to treat them is I cut them to the right size for them. My African gray as a treat will only get 1/4 of a cashew, and my little green cheek will only get a sliver. And I use these as treats and also rewards. They are not part of their regular food dish. In their food dish, they do get seed. And this is, yes, I have told you first that you weren't supposed to give seed to your bird, but this seed I'm using as a treat and a reward. What I do is I take this really small spoon, and it's 1/4 of a teaspoon, and I only give it 1/4 of a teaspoon to my larger birds in the morning when they go into their cage, because I'm off to work. And they zip over there and I close the door, and that they've got their seed. My smallest bird actually only gets half of this, so he ends up with he's a green cheek, he ends up with about 4 to 5 seeds, and he thinks this is great. He will zip over to his cage, jump inside, I'll close the door, and I'm off to work. That's the first and last seed they'll see all day. In the evening, I treat them with different things for doing different behaviors. At dinner time, when the humans want to sit down and have a really nice dinner, I treat them one more time. They get 1 power treat. That's it. And the little one only gets the millet. He doesn't like power treats. But that's the only power treat they get that day, and they know it's right before dinner. They get locked in their cage, and I get to have a very peaceful dinner with my husband. The last treat is the nuts that I was showing you. These nuts are also only given to them once a day for good behavior. I give them a sliver or a 1/4, depending on their size, right before they go to bed, and I tuck them in. So again, treats are good, but they're only meant to be a small amount of variation to their diet, and only they're a small for a reward for doing something good. So as a summary, I'd like to say that we're feeding the commercial food as 50 to 70% of their diet, and the rest of their diet's going to be fresh veggies, fruits, and vegetables. Lots of leafy greens and some other things to add variety to their diet and increase their nutrition. Treats keep them as natural as possible, and they're only for the best behaved birds. And that's it for what I'm going to cover today. Thank you.